The battlefield was quiet now, but only in the way a storm leaves silence after tearing apart everything in its path. Smoke rose in thin lines from broken machines scattered across the valley. The ground was torn open by craters, and the once green hills were now blackened by fire. Among the wreckage, a lone human walked slowly, his breathing heavy but steady. His name was Daniel. He was one of the last humans fighting on this front. Daniel's armor was cracked and scratched, a memory of every fight he had survived. His left shoulder plate was missing, showing the scarred skin beneath. It wasn't a fresh wound, it was old, a mark carved into him long ago. But tonight, the scar had reopened during the last strike, bleeding again as if the universe wanted to remind him of his mortality. He moved carefully, searching for survivors. The enemy had been fierce, alien warriors from a kingdom beyond the stars. They were taller, stronger, and faster than most humans. Yet Daniel had stood against them, and he was still breathing. That itself felt like defiance. From the corner of his eye, he noticed movement. His hand instantly reached for his weapon, a battered blade strapped to his side. But when the figure stepped out from the smoke, Daniel froze. It was her, an alien woman, tall, elegant, her long hair flowing like a river of silver under the fading light. Her skin was pale white, untouched by the soot that covered the battlefield. She was young, but her eyes carried the weight of command. She wore armor decorated with the marks of royalty, though cracked from the fight. Daniel had heard of her before, the fierce princess who led troops into battle rather than hiding in a throne room. She was not an enemy now. She was wounded, her steps unsteady, her breathing shallow. When she saw Daniel, her body tensed, expecting a final strike. But Daniel did not raise his blade. Instead, he lowered it slowly and watched her collapse onto her knees. For a long moment, they stared at one another in silence. Finally, Daniel spoke, his voice rough but calm. "You're hurt." She frowned, her pride refusing to show weakness. You are my enemy. Why do you care?" Daniel did not answer with words. Instead, he walked closer, crouched beside her, and pulled out a small kit from his belt. His hands were tired, trembling from exhaustion, but he still worked with care. The princess watched him, confusion written on her face. Her people did not know mercy on the battlefield. Mercy was weakness. Yet here was a human, bleeding from his own wounds, trying to help her. When his hand brushed against her arm to clean the blood, she flinched, not from pain but from shock. Her gaze dropped to his shoulder where the scar stretched across his skin, old and brutal. Instinctively, without thinking, her hand reached out and touched it. The moment froze. Her fingers pressed gently against the scar. The skin was rough, hardened from years of survival. She had seen scars before, but not like this. Her voice trembled as she whispered, almost to herself, "No creature could endure that, unless you're human." Daniel did not move away. He let her hand rest there for a moment, though his eyes remained steady, meeting hers. "We endure because we have to," he said softly. "If we don't, we lose everything." The princess pulled her hand back, her expression a mixture of disbelief and respect. She had been raised to see humans as fragile, weak, unworthy of standing against her kind. But in this single moment, her understanding shattered. The scar spoke louder than words. Silence returned between them, broken only by the crackle of fires in the distance. Daniel finished wrapping her wound, tying the bandage firmly. When he stood, he offered his hand to her. "Come on," he said. "We can't stay here. Others will return." She hesitated. Accepting help from a human felt like betrayal to her people. But her body was weak, her strength fading. Slowly, with pride still clinging to her, she placed her hand in his. Daniel pulled her up, steadying her when she nearly fell. She was taller than him, her armor making her presence even more commanding. Yet in that moment, she leaned on him. They moved together across the ruined battlefield, two figures who should have been enemies but now walked side by side. The princess stole glances at Daniel, at the scars that marked his body, at the calm way he carried himself despite exhaustion. Her thoughts raced. Why does he not hate me? Why does he not strike me down? Why does he carry wounds that would kill one of us yet still move forward? For the first time, doubt crept into her heart, not about her people, not about the war, but about the very nature of humans. Daniel noticed her silence but did not press. He knew trust could not be forced. It had to grow, slow and steady. He only hoped she would see that not all enemies had to remain enemies. As they reached the edge of the valley, night fell. Stars glittered above, cold and distant. Daniel found a broken shelter enough to shield them for the night. He guided her inside and helped her sit. The princess watched him as he lit a small flame. The fire's glow touched his scarred face, highlighting the lines of fatigue and resilience. She realized then that this human was unlike any warrior she had ever known. When Daniel finally sat across from her, his eyes tired but unyielding, she spoke softly. "Human. What are you?" He smiled faintly, though his voice was serious. Just someone trying to survive. But she knew it was more. The scar, his endurance, his choice to help rather than kill, all of it spoke of a strength her people had never understood. And in that quiet moment, she felt something she never thought she would: respect for a human. The fire crackled between them as the night deepened. Outside, the war still raged across the stars. But inside that small shelter, something new began. A fragile connection born from pain, respect, and the unbreakable endurance of humanity. The night stretched long, and the fire in the small shelter crackled softly, pushing back the cold air. Daniel leaned against the broken wall, his weapon close to his side, though his eyes were half closed with exhaustion. Across from him sat the alien princess, her silver hair catching the glow of the fire, her pale armor dull from dirt and blood. For a time they said nothing. The silence was not hostile. It was heavy, full of unspoken thoughts. Daniel knew she was watching him carefully, studying him as one might study a puzzle that refused to make sense. He felt her gaze, but he didn't return it. Instead, he focused on sharpening his blade with a piece of stone, the rhythmic sound filling the quiet. Finally, her voice broke the stillness. "Why did you not kill me when you had the chance?" Daniel lifted his eyes. He had expected the question. "Because I'm not here to kill those who can't fight back. You were wounded. That wasn't a fight, that would have been murder." Her brows furrowed, confusion flickering across her face. "Murder? On the battlefield, all deaths are the same. My people, they would not have spared you." "I know," Daniel said simply. He slid the blade back into its sheath. "That's why we're different." Her lips pressed together, as though she wanted to argue. Yet something in his tone stopped her. She had lived her life by the law of strength, where mercy was weakness. But here was a human, tired and scarred, still choosing mercy even when no one was watching. That unsettled her more than any weapon could. As the firelight flickered, her eyes once again drifted to the scar on his shoulder. The way he had not flinched when she touched it earlier still lingered in her mind. That wound. No one from her kind could survive such a thing. It was as if humans were built from stubbornness itself. She spoke again, softer this time. "That scar. How did you get it?" Daniel leaned back against the stone wall, his gaze lifting to the roof where cracks revealed the faint stars. "It was years ago. A blade from one of your kind cut deep, almost to the bone. I should have died, but I didn't. My people pulled me back, stitched me up, and I kept fighting. That's what humans do. We don't stop breathing until the last breath is forced from us." She listened carefully, her expression unreadable. To her, wounds like that meant the end. Warriors who fell stayed down. The idea that someone could rise again after such pain challenged everything she believed about life and war. Daniel's eyes closed briefly, though his voice remained steady. "Pain doesn't stop us. It only teaches us. It reminds us of what's worth protecting. The princess lowered her gaze to the fire. She did not want to admit it, but his words stirred something deep inside her. Her people were strong, yes, but strength without compassion was hollow. She had never thought about it that way until now. The night passed, and when dawn arrived, pale light crept across the broken valley. Daniel rose slowly, every muscle stiff from both wounds and fatigue. He checked the princess's bandage. It was holding, though she was still weak. "We should move," he said. "This place won't stay quiet for long." She hesitated, pride still holding her tongue, but finally she gave a small nod. Daniel helped her stand, his arm steadying her. Wait. She disliked leaning on him, yet her body gave her no choice. Together they stepped out into the cold morning air. The battlefield smelled of ash and iron. Smoke still rose in the distance. Daniel scanned the horizon. Somewhere beyond those hills were both human camps and alien camps. Either side would see the two of them together and call them traitors. They walked in silence, their boots crunching against the broken ground. After a while, the princess spoke again. "You risk your life walking beside me. If my soldiers see you, they will not show mercy." Daniel gave a faint smile, though his eyes stayed sharp on the path ahead. "That makes two of us. If my soldiers see you, they'll do the same. Maybe that's why we need to walk together, at least this way we're both risking something." Her chest tightened at his words. It was strange, this sense of equality. She was royalty, commander of legions, raised to believe herself above all others. Yet this scarred human spoke to her as if they stood on the same ground. And instead of angering her, it steadied her. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher and the heat grew heavy. They found water from a broken pipe near the ruins of an outpost. Daniel filled a canteen and handed it to her first. She hesitated again, unused to such gestures. Then she drank, the cool water easing the dryness in her throat. "Why do you always place yourself second?" she asked, lowering the canteen. Daniel shrugged. "Because someone has to. Where I come from, survival isn't just about who's strongest. It's about who helps others keep going. Alone we fall. Together we rise." She stared at him for a long time, trying to understand. Her people valued dominance, the crushing of rivals. But he spoke of unity, of carrying each other. It sounded fragile, and yet in him it looked like strength. By midday they found shelter under the remains of a transport ship, half buried in the dirt. Daniel worked to set up a temporary camp, gathering metal scraps to block the wind. The princess, though tired, helped by handing him pieces and adjusting what she could. As they worked, a sudden noise broke the calm, the distant hum of engines. Daniel's head snapped up. He crouched low, pulling her with him behind the wreckage. 3. Alien patrol craft passed overhead, their shadows crawling across the ground. The princess's breath caught in her throat. If they spotted her with a human, she would be branded a traitor, stripped of her name. Daniel's hand rested lightly against her arm, steadying her. His calmness in danger surprised her again. He whispered, "Stay still, don't breathe too loud." They waited until the ships passed. Only when the sound faded into the distance did Daniel release the tension in his shoulders. The princess exhaled slowly, realizing her heart had been racing. She glanced at him, and for a moment she saw not just a soldier but a shield, someone who carried others' safety even in silence. When they sat back down under the wreckage, she asked quietly, "Why do you protect even me? I am your enemy." Daniel looked at her firmly. "Because enemies can become something else. I don't know what you'll be tomorrow, but today you needed help. So I gave it." Her eyes lingered on him, searching for deceit. She found none. As the sun set again, painting the sky with red and gold, the fire between them grew, not just the one built from broken wood, but the invisible one that formed when two people saw each other not as enemies, but as beings bound by shared struggle. The princess leaned back against the wreckage, her voice soft. "Perhaps humans are not weak after all." Daniel gave a tired chuckle. "We're weak all the time. The trick is we don't let it stop us. Her lips curved into the smallest hint of a smile, something she hadn't allowed herself in years. For the first time since the war began, she felt something unexpected. Safety. Not in numbers or in armies, but in the presence of one scarred, stubborn human. That night, as the stars stretched wide above them, she closed her eyes, knowing tomorrow would bring new dangers. Yet somewhere deep within, she also knew this human's endurance might change not just her fate, but the fate of her entire people. The morning came quietly, but danger always followed silence. Daniel rose before the first light, his body aching, but his senses sharp. He had survived enough battles to know peace never lasted long. He glanced at the princess, still resting, against the wreckage. Her breathing was steady, her face calm, though her armor was cracked and her body still weak. For the first time since they met, she did not look like a commander or a warrior. She looked like someone carrying too much weight alone. Daniel tightened his boots and adjusted his weapon. They could not stay hidden forever. The patrols would return. Supplies were running low. He knew the safest way was to find neutral ground, a space where both humans and her people avoided, dead zones, abandoned cities, places neither side claimed. That would buy them time. When she stirred awake, her silver eyes opened slowly. She frowned at him. "You rise early, human." Daniel smirked faintly. "Old habit. My people say morning belongs to those who want to survive." She tilted her head, studying him as if his every word carried another meaning. "You humans, you speak in riddles, yet somehow you live longer than we expect." He handed her a piece of dried rations. "Eat. We've got distance to cover." Her pride fought against her hunger, but her body won. She ate quietly, her sharp eyes never leaving him. They moved out soon after. The ground was rough, scattered with broken steel and the burned shells of machines. Daniel walked ahead, scanning the path, while she followed, her steps steadying. As her strength slowly returned, hours passed until in the distance smoke curled into the sky. Daniel crouched low and motioned her to stop. Together they peered over a ridge. Below, a skirmish had broken out. A human scouting unit was under attack, pinned down by alien soldiers. The sound of gunfire and screams echoed through the ruined valley. Daniel's jaw tightened. He recognized the human uniforms. They were his. The princess stiffened beside him. Those alien soldiers. Her soldiers. Her loyalty pulled her one way, while her wounds and Daniel's presence pulled her another. Daniel's voice was calm but firm. "Stay here. I have to go." She turned sharply to him. "If you go, you'll die. They outnumber your men. And if they see me..." Her words trailed off, the thought unspoken but clear. If her people saw her with him, both of them would be finished. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "I can't just watch. They're my people." He moved to stand, but her hand shot out, gripping his arm. She hesitated, her pride fighting her heart, then whispered, "If you go, then I will fight too." Daniel stared at her, surprised. "They're your soldiers." She looked away, her voice low. "Maybe. But I cannot forget what you did for me, and I cannot deny what I saw in your scars. If humans fight like you, perhaps they deserve to live." For a heartbeat, Daniel saw not the proud princess, but a warrior caught between two worlds. He gave a sharp nod. "Then let's end this together." They slid down the ridge, moving like shadows. Daniel signaled the humans pinned behind the wreckage. Their shocked faces lit up when they saw him, alive and still fighting, but their eyes widened further when they noticed the alien princess at his side. "Daniel, what are you doing?" One soldier hissed. "She's one of them." Daniel cut him off. "She's with me. Focus on the enemy. If you want to live, you fight now. Ask questions later." The princess drew her blade, its silver edge glinting in the smoke. For a moment, both sides froze, confused at the sight of her standing beside a human. Then Daniel charged forward, breaking the hesitation. The battle was fierce. Bullets cracked the air. Blades clashed with sparks and smoke burned their lungs. Daniel fought with practiced precision, every strike fueled by survival and stubbornness. The princess moved beside him, her movements sharp and graceful, though her wounds slowed her. At first, the alien soldiers faltered, confused by her betrayal. But soon, anger replaced hesitation. They came at her harder than before, calling her traitor, shouting her title with rage. She blocked their strikes, her face hard. Though Daniel saw the flicker of pain in her eyes, still she fought. And Daniel fought beside her. Together, they turned the tide. The human soldiers, inspired by the sight of their scarred comrade standing, shoulder to shoulder with a royal enemy, found new strength. They pushed back, their gunfire cutting through the chaos. Finally, the last of the alien attackers fell. The smoke thinned, leaving silence broken only by the heavy breaths of survivors. The humans looked at Daniel, then at the princess. Disbelief etched on their faces. One soldier muttered, "This is madness. Fighting with her? She should be our prisoner." The princess raised her chin, her pride flashing. But before she could speak, Daniel stepped forward. His voice was calm, but it carried authority. "She's not our prisoner. She's alive because she chose not to kill me. She fought with us, today. That makes her more than an enemy. Whether you trust her or not, that's your choice, but she stays with me." The soldiers exchanged uneasy looks. They respected Daniel, but doubt hung heavy in their eyes. Still, none dared challenge him directly. The princess studied him, her expression unreadable. No one had ever defended her like that, not even her own generals. When the humans moved to regroup, Daniel pulled her aside. His tone was low. "From here on, it gets harder. Both sides will know. You stood with me. That means you've crossed a line you can't step back from." She met his gaze steadily. "I know, and I do not regret it." For the first time, Daniel saw not just respect in her eyes, but conviction, born not from orders or duty, but from her own choice. They moved with the survivors toward safer ground, but danger still lingered. The princess knew her people would not forgive her betrayal. The humans would not trust her easily. She had chosen a path of exile, bound to the scarred human who had shown her mercy. That night, when campfires lit the broken horizon, Daniel sat, apart, sharpening his blade again. The princess approached, sitting beside him without a word. For a while they watched the flames. Then she spoke quietly. "You changed the battlefield today, not with strength alone, but with something else. I think your people call it hope." Daniel glanced at her, his face tired but calm. "Hope is the only weapon we have that never runs out." She looked at him long, her eyes softening. "Then perhaps I will carry it too." The firelight flickered between them, their shadows mingling against the ground. Around them the war raged on, but in that moment something stronger than war began to form. An alliance not written by kings or generals, but by a scarred human and a princess who chose to see him not as enemy but as equal. The fires from the battle still smoldered when dawn rose again. The humans who survived the skirmish packed their gear in silence, their eyes flicking often toward the alien princess. She stood tall despite her wounds, her silver hair catching the early light, her pale armor bearing the cracks of yesterday's fight. She could feel their stares. Distrust was heavy in the air, as sharp as a blade. To them, she was still the enemy, even if she had fought at their side. Every glance reminded her she had stepped into a place where she belonged nowhere, no longer trusted by her people, and not yet accepted by the humans. Daniel sensed the tension. He knew soldiers well. Suspicion was natural, but he also knew if this distrust grew, it would turn dangerous. He walked to the center of the group, his voice steady but commanding. "She fought with us," he said, pointing toward the princess. "If not for her, some of us would be dead. That's the truth. You don't have to like it, you don't even have to trust her yet. But you will respect what she did." The soldiers shifted uncomfortably, their gazes dropping. None dared argue against Daniel, not after the way he had fought. Still, unease lingered like smoke. The princess tilted her chin, pride masking the small flicker of gratitude in her eyes. She had never needed someone to defend her before. But his words struck something inside her, something unfamiliar. They set out at first light, moving through broken fields and scorched forests. Daniel walked at the front, his blade at his side, his eyes scanning for danger. The princess walked near him, her steps steady, though her heart wrestled with thoughts she had never known before. Her people would call her traitor now. Word of her fighting with humans would spread quickly. Her name, once carried with honor, would be cursed. She clenched her fists, swallowing the weight of betrayal. And yet, she looked at Daniel, scarred and stubborn, and for the first time she felt she had chosen freely, not by duty, not by bloodline, but by conviction. By midday, they reached a ruined city. Tall towers of stone and steel had crumbled long ago, leaving only skeletons of buildings. This place was abandoned, claimed by neither humans nor aliens. Daniel chose it as shelter. They entered the hollow streets, the wind howling through broken windows. Daniel signaled the group to spread out, searching for supplies. The princess followed him through the ruins. "This city," she whispered. "Your people lived here once?" Daniel nodded. "Long before the war we built it, then the fighting came and we abandoned it. Now it belongs to no one." She touched the cracked wall, her fingers brushing dust. "So much strength, wasted. Why do your people keep building even when everything falls?" Daniel glanced at her. "Because that's what we do. We build again, even when it breaks. Especially when it breaks." Her gaze lingered on him. His words held a weight she could not deny. Her people believed in power. Once broken, a thing was discarded. But humans rebuilt. That stubbornness fascinated her. The soldiers set up camp in the shell of a large hall. Fires burned in old barrels, smoke curling into the broken sky. As night fell, Daniel stood watch on the edge of the city, his eyes scanning the horizon. The princess approached, her steps quiet. She stood beside him, watching the stars rise. For a long time, they said nothing. Finally, she spoke, her voice low. "They will come for me, Daniel. My people. They will not forgive betrayal. They will send hunters." Daniel's jaw tightened. "I know. And your people," she continued, turning her silver gaze to him. "They will never trust me. Even now, they look at me as if I am a weapon, pointed at their backs." Daniel's eyes remained on the horizon. "Then let them look. Trust takes time, but they'll see. You already proved yourself once. Prove it again and again until they can't deny it." She stared at him, surprised. "You speak as if you believe I will stay at your side." Daniel turned his head slightly, his scar catching the moonlight. "I believe you already made that choice." Her chest tightened. She wanted to argue, to deny, but the words would not come. He was right. Somewhere between the battlefield and this broken city, her path had changed. Suddenly, a shout came from the camp. The soldiers scrambled, weapons raised. Daniel and the princess ran back quickly. In the distance, shadows moved, figures slipping between the ruins, their movements too precise to be scavengers. Daniel's hand gripped his blade. "Scouts," he muttered. The princess's eyes narrowed. "Not just scouts, my people's hunters." The shadows drew closer, their voices echoing through the hollow streets. "Princess, you shame your blood. Step forward and we may yet grant you a swift death." The soldiers tightened their circle, fear mixing with anger. Daniel stepped to the front, his presence steady. The princess moved beside him, her back straight, her face cold as steel. The hunters emerged, tall alien warriors, clad in black armor, their eyes burning with rage. They carried long blades and spears, weapons of her people. The leader stepped forward, pointing at her. "You stand with humans? You dishonor your kind. You are no princess now, only a traitor." The words struck hard, but she did not flinch. Instead, she raised her chin and replied, her voice sharp as lightning. "If loyalty means blind hatred, then I reject it. If strength means killing the weak, then I do not want it. Call me traitor if you wish, but tonight, I fight with him." She pointed at Daniel, her voice ringing through the ruins. "And that makes me stronger than all of you." The hunters roared, charging forward. The battle exploded in the ruined city. Steel clashed, sparks flew, and cries echoed through the broken halls. Daniel fought with fierce determination, every strike born from survival. The princess moved beside him, her blade singing through the air. The soldiers, though shaken, rallied around them. They had doubted her, but now, watching her defend them as fiercely as Daniel did, something shifted in their hearts. The hunters fought hard, their rage giving them strength, but they had not expected the bond between a scarred human and a fallen princess. Side by side, Daniel and she carved through the attackers. Every time he faltered, she blocked a strike for him. Every time her wounds slowed her, he shielded her path. At last, the leader of the hunters fell, his blade shattering against Daniel's. The remaining enemies fled into the night, their cries of "traitor" echoing as they vanished. Silence returned, heavy but victorious. The soldiers looked at the princess differently now, not as a prisoner, not as a traitor, but as a warrior who had chosen to fight for them. Breathing hard, Daniel lowered his blade. He turned to her. Their eyes met, and in that look, words were unnecessary. The princess, chest rising with each breath, whispered, "They will keep coming." Daniel nodded. "Then we'll keep standing." The firelight burned bright in the ruined city as the night deepened. The humans and the alien princess, once enemies, now stood together, not just by choice but by survival, by trust earned in blood and fire. And somewhere in the quiet after the storm, the first seeds of something greater began to take root, something that might one day change the war itself. The city lay in ruins, but inside those broken walls something new had begun to grow. The soldiers sat around their small fires, nursing wounds, whispering about the impossible sight they had witnessed, the alien princess standing with them, against her own hunters. Daniel sat apart, sharpening his blade as always, the steady sound echoing faintly in the hollow hall. The princess sat near him, her long silver hair falling across her shoulders, her pale armor patched from battle. She looked weary, yet her eyes shone with an intensity that even defeat could not dim. She spoke softly, her voice meant only for him. "It will not end here. They will send more, stronger than hunters. Commanders, perhaps even legions." Daniel nodded, his gaze steady. "I know. That's why we move before they regroup. We can't sit still." Her eyes lingered on him, curious. Always moving, always enduring. Do humans ever stop? Daniel gave a faint smile. "Only when we're dead. Until then, we keep going." The princess said nothing more, but her heart tightened. She realized he spoke not with pride, but with truth. Humans survived because they refused to fall, even when the world told them to. At dawn, they set out again. The ruins behind them still smoked, and the shadows of hunters still lingered in the distance. The group moved quietly through empty valleys, the sound of their boots crunching against stone. Daniel walked at the front, the princess close at his side. The soldiers began to change in small ways. At first, their eyes were sharp with suspicion whenever they looked at her. But after seeing her fight, after watching her bleed for them, their whispers turned into silence. And silence, Daniel knew, was the first step to acceptance. By midday, they reached a canyon, its walls steep and jagged. Daniel chose it as a path forward. The group descended carefully, every step echoing against stone. Halfway through, the sound of engines rumbled above. Daniel froze. The princess's eyes widened. Flying machines appeared at the top of the canyon. "Alien. Warships. They found us," she whispered. The ship swooped low, dropping squads of armored warriors. The canyon erupted with shouts, metal against stone, the air filled with dust. Daniel drew his blade, his jaw tight. "Stay behind me." But the princess shook her head fiercely. "No, I fight with you." The enemy charged. The battle was chaos. In the narrow canyon, blades clashed, sparks lit the dust-filled air, and gunfire echoed against the stone walls. Daniel fought at the front, his strikes precise, every movement born from survival. The princess fought beside him, her sword flashing like silver fire. The soldiers formed a circle, defending one another as the enemy pressed hard. They were outnumbered, surrounded on both sides. Every second felt like the last. The leader of the alien squad stepped forward, towering in black armor. His voice thundered through the canyon. "Princess, you shame us with every breath. Come back in chains or die beside this human filth." The princess raised her chin, her voice strong despite the chaos. "I am no longer yours to command. My path is my own, and today I choose him." She stepped closer to Daniel, her blade raised high. The soldiers, though exhausted, shouted in defiance, the sound echoing like thunder. The enemy roared and attacked with fury. The canyon shook with battle. Daniel's blade cut through, his scars burning but his will unbroken. The princess moved. With him, every strike defending not only herself but the human who had shown her mercy. For a moment it seemed they would fall. The soldiers staggered, the circle breaking. The enemy pressed in, but Daniel refused to stop. He planted his feet, his voice cutting through the roar. "Hold the line, don't give them a single step." Something stirred in the soldiers then. The way he stood, scarred and stubborn, ignited something inside them. They rallied, their weapons striking with renewed strength. The princess, too, fought with a fire she had never known before. Together, they pushed back. Blow by blow, strike by strike, the enemy faltered. The leader raised his blade against Daniel, a strike meant to end him. But the princess moved first, her sword intercepting with a ringing clash. She forced the leader back, her eyes blazing. "This human is stronger than all of you," she spat, "and I will fight at his side until the end." With one final strike, Daniel drove his blade through the leader's defense, sending him crashing to the ground. The remaining enemies hesitated, fear creeping into their eyes. Without their leader, their will broke. They fled into the canyon, shadows, their shouts fading into silence. The soldiers collapsed against the stone, gasping for breath. Daniel stood tall, his chest heaving, his blade stained with dust. The princess stood beside him, her armor cracked, her hair tangled, but her eyes shining with fierce light. Silence filled the canyon. The battle was over. Slowly, the soldiers looked at her again. But this time, their stares held no hatred, no suspicion. They had seen her stand between them and death. They had heard her voice defy her own kind for their survival. One soldier spoke, his voice trembling but clear. "She's one of us now." The words spread like fire. Others nodded, some too tired to speak, but their eyes said enough. For the first time, she was not seen as an enemy. The princess's chest tightened. Acceptance had always been her people's gift, never the humans. Yet here, among scarred warriors and broken soldiers, she had found it. Daniel sheathed his blade, his gaze steady on her. "You know what this means, don't you?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, I cannot go back. Not to them." Daniel studied her face, then gave a small nod. "Then stay. Walk with us." She looked at him, her silver eyes bright in the fading light. "I already chose that the moment I touched your scar." For a long moment they stood together in the canyon, the war still raging across the stars. Yet something had changed forever. The humans had seen her fight beside them. The princess had chosen her path. And Daniel, scarred, stubborn, unyielding, had proven what it meant to be human. As the group began their long march forward, the princess walked at Daniel's side. The distrust that once followed her had faded into respect. The whispers of betrayal had turned into silence, and silence had turned into something stronger: trust. The stars glittered above as night fell, and though the war was far from over, one truth now burned brighter than any fire. Humanity was not weak. Humanity endured, and for the first time in her life, the alien princess believed that maybe, just maybe, that endurance could change the fate of two worlds.